Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
We're in Way Media. Welcome back, Midnight Viewers, to what ordinarily would be a Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. Instead, well, I'm still Father Malone, but this week on the show we're switching it up a little and crossing over. That's right, I was lucky enough to be a guest on Paul Waller's incredible horror podcast, A Year in Horror. There's going to be a link in the notes. Go over there and experience the pure joy of horror fandom that is personified in Paul Waller. He has been on Midnight Viewing a few times in the past. I'll put links to that as well. He guested on our Creepshow episode and again on our Trick or Treat episode. That's the heavy metal 80s horror movie Trick or Treat, not the misguided anthology Trick or Treat. As his podcast name suggests, Paul covers a particular year in horror. He is currently covering the year 1994, and I dropped in to discuss Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the tale of an unhinged madman and his revolting creation. But enough about Kenneth Branagh. Anyway, what follows is our conversation about Victor Frankenstein and his creation, which is timely given that we're getting a full bells and whistles reimagining next month with Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein. By the way, knowing what a fan of Bernie Wrightson that Del Toro is, I am positive that our creature is going to be that Wrightson interpretation from his illustrated Frankenstein, the one back from 1983. Anyway, I cannot link that below, but you should look it up. It's all etching and it's all gorgeous. Before I hand you off to Paul, I wanted to mention a couple of things. During our conversation, I bring up the show Penny Dreadful and its portrayal of Frankenstein's monster. The name that I fumble around for is Rory Kinnear. He's the talented actor playing the monster. Most might know Mr. Kinnear from the recent 007 films. He's MI6 agent Bill Tanner, and fans of Black Mirror will remember him from the National Anthem episode. The Prime Minister and the Pig. He was the Prime Minister. Also, I mentioned while fumbling around for his name that he's the son of another actor. That's his dad, Roy Kinnear, who was very funny in those Salkind-produced Three Musketeer movies from the 1970s, but just about everyone on Earth knows him as Henry Salt, father to Veruca Salt in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Another self-correction, we talk about the movie May, and I mistakenly refer to its lead actress as Angela Mattis. It's Angela Bettis. That popped into my head 5 minutes after we finished recording, so I'm glad I can bring it up here. Lastly, October 4th and 5th, Those dates are fast approaching, and with it, the Nightmare in Vegas Horror Convention and Car Show. Midnight Viewing will have a presence there. I'll be on display in my priest collar. What the fuck, why not, right? The real question now is, mustache or not? We'll see. Joining me will be HP, host of Noise Junkies and Night Mr. Walters podcast, as well as the Culture Cast Chris Stashu, and other guests and surprises and giveaways and handouts and free hot dogs. That part is not true. Get your own food. There will be sass on tap, though. That's sassy attitude. That'll be flowing. Free to the public. That's a service we provide. Tune in Friday as Yahucha Fest continues. We've got Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, the first direct sequel to any of the Predator-adjacent films. HP joins me as usual for all of our fests. Moranis Fest is on the horizon, everybody. Looking at all the filmed entertainment released theatrically. I'm not watching 900 hours of SCTV of Mr. Rick Moranis. That is in anticipation of his return in Spaceballs 2. Also, this October... Wait, I guess HP isn't on every fest. We are starting up the Books of Blood Fest here at Midnight Viewing, examining all the filmed adaptations based on Clive Barker's seminal horror anthologies, The Books of Blood. We've got a rotating group of horror heavy hitters joining me for that series, including Mr. Paul Waller. Tell the people what you do, Paul.
My name is Paul Waller, not Weller, and I'm a horror movie addict. During 2020, the workload for my music industry job it slowed right down, and at the same time, I discovered the movie social networking platform called Letterboxd. So, I decided to fill in the gaps of my horror film knowledge. I'm still averaging 2 a day, and this podcast is a result of that horror compulsion. This is a year in horror.
Excellent day for an exhibition.
Well, you know what the most frightening thing in the world is? It's fear.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Okay, 1994. On the very release date of this episode, I can take you back 29 years to that very year, 1994. So, yeah, welcome back, horror list lovers. We've returned. Last month, we covered the complete Wes Craven filmography, Porn and all. And the top 3 horror films, according to me, that he's directed were, in reverse order, at number 3, Scream. That is, of course, the one with the most iconic opening scene of a film ever, I reckon, in my time that I've been alive. Number 2 was an oldie, but a filthy goldie, called The Last House on the Left. And my number 1 hot shot was, of course, Vampire in Brooklyn, A Nightmare on Elm Street. An incredible work of terror, the birth of an 80s icon, and the staple of my screens for many, many a year. So that was last month, done, dusted, devoured, and now this month. Well, it's different, because we are back at looking at individual years and the horror movies that were released therein. And last month I pulled out of the hat 1994, the year that Kurt Cobain died. Now, I think it's not really even in the general conversation anymore, but the 90s has always had this bad rap for being a stinker of a decade for horror, but a really interesting one for music, and these days is pretty much deemed to be as good as any other. But there was that long stretch where just people would always give the 90s crap. No need. Because, look, I'm going to be the judge of this. It's my show. It's what I'm here for. And when we get to the end of all these years, I'll tally up these podcast stats and I'll tell you what was the worst decade. And if it's the 90s, well, then I'll eat my foot. Now, for this one, I watched 24 horror films altogether. Now, that's hardly anything compared to a normal yearly run, but it is what it is. As for the worldwide box office bums on seats, well, just check out this top 3. At number 3 was True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis and Mr. Schwarzenegger. And then following that, we have number 2, Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. Now, that film is a Marmite for everyone. Some people think it's one of the best films ever made. A lot of people think it's total trash. All I'll tell you is whenever I see it, I cry my eyes out from beginning to end. But the number one movie at the box office, would you believe it, narrowly beating Forrest Gump, it was Disney's The Lion King. Was there any horror in that top 20 though? Well, there were two things. Jack Nicholson was in Wolf. Of course he was. And then we have Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and Christian Slater making it all the way to the number 10 position with Interview with the Vampire. Regardless, I've been juggling my list around, and let me tell you, my top 8 is very tight. Believe that. But I mean, come on. It's pretty awful. Only 8 films that I could say, hand on heart, are essential. It is a pretty slight year, 94. But what else was going on in 94? Well, musically, 1994, as I've already said, was awesome. The very first couple of pages of Rate Your Music, for what it's worth, give you a very, very awesome overview of what is out there. The ones that I recommend and picked from it were Portishead, Dummy, Weezer, The Blue Album, Pavement, Crooked Rain, an album so good they named it twice, Sunny Day Real Estate's Diary, The Beastie Boys' Ill Communication, Built to Spill, There's Nothing Wrong with Love, Holes Live Through This, and of course, Shellac at Action Park. But what was the actual news? Well, here's 3 things that AI told me happened. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela became the nation's very first black president after the end of apartheid. Closer to home, the Channel Tunnel was finished and launched. And I'm going to dump both of these final things together as they're both pretty tragic. The very first episode of Friends aired and the Rwandan genocide began. So, pretty bad. Christ. That was the times. Important and often shocking current events, sure, but not 1970 horror movie podcasting times, right? So how do things work on this show? Well, for those new to the show, here is a quick guide to what a year in horror is all about. This is a podcast where I choose a year at random every month and then I run down my very personal favourite films of that year. It's that easy. That is the podcast in a nutshell. Also, with each episode, I am joined by some outrageously handsome human guests. They help me sift my way through the most interesting films of the bunch. And for this, the 1994 Big Hitter episode, well, we've got a new special guest in the guise of filmmaker Rick Rawlins. Plus, we've got 3 regular friends of the podcast who've come back into the fold. We've got Stephen Hill of the stupendous True Cult Pop podcast, a staff writer at Metal Hammer magazine as well. We've got Father Malone from the Midnight Viewing podcast. Also, we've got author Paul Terry. He's returned after we chatted a load about Cold Check a few months back. And you know what? That is going to be a welcome return for all 3 of those people. So, yeah, there we go. I've also just noticed no women. I need to sort that out. But, you know, that is a pretty cool collection of well-adjusted guys, right? So, here we go. We're almost there. My definition of horror is sometimes considered wrong. Just plain wrong by those self-appointed gatekeepers with a more defined opinion of what makes a horror an actual horror. And sometimes my rather witty and astute and precise takes of what is a horror, well, they make it to the very high reaches of the chart. So if you are one of those easily triggered folks, then just be prepared to get rammed up the wrong side by a ramekin, probably gripped by the mighty Lono from We Belong Dead. Yeah, that might happen. I've just thought as I'm saying that, Lono also isn't on this show. I need to sort this out. More Lono, I say. I'm going to sort that out ASAP. Where was I in my little script? I've lost the point. 1994, there we go. That's where we are. It was a difficult number 1 to choose for me. The top 4 were being shuffled around quite a lot, so be aware when we get there that my number 1 could be your number 4, etc., etc. And when we make it to the very end of this episode, I'm going to be picking out of a bag at random the very next year that I'm going to tackle for next month's edition of the show. And you might well be thinking, hang on, Paul, scroll back a bit. 24 films? You can't call that enough to judge a whole year in horror. You might be right, but here's the reason. I've got to have some rules to follow to create this show, and a movie needs to score at least 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd for me to watch it. And sometimes there's going to be exceptions to the rule. And 1994, it saw the release of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a Kenneth Branagh atrocity, right? Well, maybe not. but maybe. It's always been seemingly looked down upon by the horror community, and I'd never seen it. So with Arrow just putting out a 4K, me being a newbie to it, well, how can I say no? Even though it only scored 2.9 on Letterboxd. And finally, I'm only a fan. I'm an enthusiast. I am not a scholar of horror. I am a dabbler in this darkness. So, for the most part, I don't watch these things academically. It's an obsession, much like I imagine you have that same obsession. I get excited about this stuff still, all the time, month after month. I can't wait to dig into the next batch. So, remember, it's all my opinions. It's a list show. If I miss something out that you love, let me know. I really do want to discover the new stuff. Also, if you pick up a great tip from me, why not email us here at the podcast? I'm at ayearinhorror@gmail.com. That easy. You can also Instagram me. I'm at Waller Not Weller. Letterboxd me. I'm at Waller Not Weller on there as well. And, you know, if you enjoy it, give it a 5-star review. Why not? I don't know what that does anymore. Does it do anything? I don't know. Are you ready? It's 1994, a year in horror. Robert De Niro as the creation? I mean, it's the monster, right? A reanimated corpse who is rejected by humanity and swears revenge on the world as a result. Yes, fuck him, please. Thing is, I've been put off watching this film for so many years for a multitude of reasons, but it only took one suggestion from Father Malone to say, yeah, I'm going to come onto the show and I'm going to chat with you about it, for me to go, right, I'm going to put aside my negativity, buy the Arrow 4K, and holy poopy poop pants, it was proper worth it, sunshines. Yes, indeed it was. Here is the letterbox synopsis for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein is a promising young doctor who, devastated by the death of his mother during childbirth, becomes obsessed with bringing back the dead from death to life. His experiments lead to the creation of a monster, which Frankenstein has put together with the remains of corpses. It's not long before Frankenstein regrets his actions.
Their passion knew no limits.
I love you so much.
But his obsession
No one need ever die. What's happened to you?
knew no boundaries.
It's a lie.
Francis Ford Coppola presents a classic story of true love
Let me help you.
and terror. Robert De Niro, Kenneth Branagh, Helena Bonham Carter, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Rated R. Starts Friday, November 4th at a theater near you.
Yes, it's time for the chat. Oh, yeah. It's myself, it's Father Malone, and he is of the most wonderful Patreon channel. That is right. It's patreon.com/Father Malone. But if that's not good enough for you, then why don't you type into your local podcast emporium podcast searching device podcast Midnight Viewing. That's where you're going to find him. You must prepare to be floored with the good old-fashioned movie-tainment, because that's what that man delivers. Here we are, just about, I don't know, when's this coming out? 2.5 months ago, talking all about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Father Malone, hello.
Good afternoon, evening, whatever. I don't know. Someone's
morning
listening to
for
this
you.
in the future. Yeah. Not that early, though.
Well, this, oddly, will come... I think this comes out before the one that we've already recorded for Wes Craven. So that's interesting. But this film, I had dedicated previously in my life zero time to. Never seen it before. Never cared. And there are a few reasons behind it. So you've gone for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 94. I'm going to, before we get to this film in particular, I would love to know like your history with Frankenstein's self, like with regards to maybe the books, maybe other films. Like, are you a fan of Frankenstein?
Yeah, I'm a fan of broadly what we consider the universal monsters, and naturally Frank is front and center there. Earliest memories of Frankenstein, my family had an 8mm projector, a silent projector, and you could buy 8mm little Reader's Digest sort of condensed versions of film. So you would have a 15-minute version of a Three Stooges film, although those were only 15 minutes anyway. No, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So we had a copy of Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, which I got to use to watch like on a wall or a sheet all the time. So that's my earliest memory of him. And that's more of a wrestling movie than it is a horror movie. So he wasn't really scary to me. And then at the same time, because I grew up in the 70s, so I was watching reruns of The Munsters, which is primarily my main image of Frankenstein is probably Fred Gwynn. But at the same time, there was the Groovy Ghoulies and there was Mad Monster Party. It was not a good time to be frightened of Frankenstein.
I get that.
Frankenberry cereal was on every kitchen table. You know what I mean? He was pretty watered down as a boogeyman by then.
I'm going to give you my top 5 Frankenstein movies. So at number 5 from 1990, I've put Frankenhooker. Patty Mullen. Love that film. But it's a weird choice because it's not Frankenstein, it's Frankenhooker, but I still had to put it there at number 5. Number 4, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. I can't believe that was your first foray into that. I watched that a few months ago. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I couldn't believe that I'd never seen it before and was like, oh, this was my first one. It was amazing.
The fucking ice cave stuff, man. That's good stuff.
It's ridiculous.
He disappeared to a cave. Oh, look, there's a cave. He disappeared to this tunnel. Okay, sure. For those of you who need continuity.
It's so rubbish, but it's so amazing. And I love it for it. So next one, Hammer now. 67 Frankenstein created women.
Yes.
Good job.
Excellent flick.
Number 2, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Unbelievable. We'll get into it in a minute. My number 1 from 31, Frankenstein, Universal Monsters.
I would add a few to that list.
Well, I'm interested in that. So I don't know. I mean, at the end, I'm going to ask you to put a flick with it for a double bill. But without spoiling that, like, where would you send people for like some cool Frankenstein stuff?
I would tell them to check out for performances as Frankenstein, for the character of Frankenstein. I would tell them to check out The Bride. That was the film with starring, unfortunately, Sting, but it features a performance by Tom Noonan. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Clancy Brown. My God, what am I talking about? Tom Noonan. Tom Noonan plays the monster in the Monster Squad, but Clancy Brown, the Kurgan from Highlander, plays Victor, the monster in The Bride. He's fucking fantastic in it. Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's a pretty good Frankenstein movie. I would encourage everyone to go there. And along those lines, my favorite, Phantom of the Paradise, there is a Frankenstein sequence in there. It's brief. It doesn't really qualify, but my God, it's a phantasmagorical version of the Frankenstein myth and with a great song going.
Absolutely 100% counts. Like, yeah, if we're including like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, hey, see, counts. Okay, cool. All right. So, which brings us to this film. I've already said that, like, where I rank this one. Like, it's so high for me, and I thought a lot of this film was pretty bad as well. But when it shines, it really shines for me. What about you? Like, in general, with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, is it something that you are into? Like, were you ever into this film?
I saw this movie opening day in Century City, California.
Of course.
And this is on the heels. We should say that this is about a year after Bram Stoker's Dracula comes out, Francis Ford Coppola's version, which is the superior version of that book, as far as I'm concerned, as far as adaptations. So expectations were high because Francis Ford Coppola and James Hart, the screenwriter of Bram Stoker's Dracula, are the executive producers and effectively producers of this film. So what it seemed like was what we're getting is a whole new era of the Universal monsters, but a literary bent on it.
Yeah.
Very excited. And on top of that, they've gotten Kenneth Branagh, who to a young Boston Irish kid was a fucking hero to me after Henry V. My God, yes, I'll stand with him. And he's basically following the Orson Welles path. So he's starring and writing and directing and just running catering. I was in love with that fool. So the prospect of this movie was my expectations were very high. And then I saw it, and then my expectations were very, very low. I do not like this movie.
How?
There are moments in this film that I think are great. There are performances that are great. There's some production stuff, but I remember thinking at the time, and then this was wholly confirmed on the rewatch, maybe he's just an egomaniac. When I think of Orson Welles and I think of the movies he was making and starring in, I never think he's not talented enough to pull this off. And I think that several times while watching Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Maybe it's miscasting. Maybe he cast the wrong guy in it. Maybe he hired the wrong director. One or the other is out of balance here.
He is the reason why I never went to it. You can't imagine how much I hated Much Ado About Nothing. You can't imagine, this was totally not me. I don't want costume dramery stuff, ruffles, mahoosive tight sort of bodices, that sort of. I hate it.
Can I tell you that I was a projectionist when that movie came out, and I had a trailer for it. And when we would have parties at the theater after hours, and I made a loop. There's a moment in the film, and it's in the trailer, where it's a close-up of a masked figure, and the mask pulls off, and it's Keanu Reeves trying to look really defiant. And it was really funny. But I had a couple of different trailers, so I was able to splice that moment and turn it into a loop. So we would have a party in the theater while Keanu Reeves took his mask off over and over again for hours on end.
I imagine that was much better than the film.
Oh, much better, certainly.
Yeah. I hate that stuff. And Helena Bonham Carter is in it all at that time. And knowing she was in there, I was like, oh, do you know what? This is going to be so. And then I saw the running time and stuff, when you're pulling out, do I want to rent this? And I was like, no.
Yeah, certainly. Scan down to the runtime. Yeah. If it's 90 minutes, I'll fucking go for it. But 97, 1 hour, 54.
Fuck that. I'm not having it. So it comes with all that baggage, which is fair enough, my personal baggage that I put to this film. And I've always been reluctant until you picked it, and I was like, right, I'm going to watch it. And then I was like, do you know what? Let's get that nice 4K Arrow thing that's just come out so I can watch it as good as I possibly can. And as I mentioned there, I loved a lot of it, but I really hated a lot of it. And I'm still so unsure of what I feel about this film. And what got me all the time, and I was thinking, is this just because it's a different time, 94? But was incest a cool thing in the 90s? Was it a common thing? Was it not looked down upon?
I certainly felt by then we had begun looking down on incest in no small fashion.
Okay. Because I'm confused.
Well, now, to be fair, Paul, that's his adopted sister. It doesn't alleviate anything. It doesn't. We're in the land of Edgar Allan Poe marrying a 14-year-old cousin. This is the time frame we're talking about. I'm not condoning any of it, but no, it adds a weird layer to it. And what's startling to me is Bram Stoker's Dracula, they called it Bram Stoker's Dracula in an announcement that this is the first time you're actually going to see that novel put on screen. So the promise was that's what they're doing here as well, which is in no way what they've done. They've made up whole sections of plot and character. They've borrowed from other films in some cases. You guys can do what you utter.
I remember reading the book when I was very young. In fact, I think I was 9 or 10. But I do remember that those bookends, and they're in here. So I do remember that, and something that never ever appeared was when he helps another family or something in secret, and that was in here, but it was so vague for me. I couldn't remember. Was that another book that I'd read? Because I was big into Ivanhoe and things like that as well at the time. It could have been something in that, I don't know. But no, it turns out it was here, and I'm glad for that. But I haven't gone through my extras yet, so there's a documentary on that thing, which is the differences between the book and And I think that'll be interesting to go in. So, like, where did they stray like terribly here?
The thing is, they're not necessarily straying all the time so much as extrapolating, which is what you do when you adapt a book into a screenplay, right? You
Yeah.
take what you think is the most important section. So what they've chosen to do here is to focus on the romance portion of the Frankenstein book, which is the love between him and Elizabeth, which is mentioned in the book. And she's more of a prop than anything in the book. And then consequently in the film, although they've tried to pump up her character and their romance, the problem is it is the flattest romance. I do not, these characters don't care for each other. It's so melodramatically produced.
Yes.
It's all stirring music and unearned. There's not even any passion. These two were fucking at the time, and there's just nothing on screen that turns
Were they
you on at
together
all.
in real life?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Helena Bonham Carter, professional homewrecker. So, yeah, at the time, Branagh's married to
Whoa.
Emma Thompson, cast Helena Bonham Carter in this, and they hook up while they're making this movie. Helena Bonham Carter moves on. Remember Lisa Marie? Remember the Martian,
Yeah.
the Martian woman in Mars Attacks? Okay, so they do. Tim Burton does Planet of the Apes. Lisa Marie's in Planet of the Apes as one of the chimpanzee ladies, but the main chimpanzee is Helena Bonham Carter, who breaks them up and takes. And now,
Wow.
yeah,
They've got zero chemistry on the screen. That is insane.
zero chemistry, man. Like negative. Like they've chosen to focus on an aspect of the book that is barely there and unnecessary, really, to the plot of this fucking movie. And these two people who are actually in an affair are just like, oh, you can tell why it didn't last.
You have blown my mind with that. I can't believe that. It's like they hate each other, like in real life. That's what it feels like. And it's like, oh, we've contracted in to do this now, and that's the total opposite. I'm stunned. Wow.
Yeah, you know what's funny is the way they interact and just when the way they kiss, it reinforces the brother and sister of it all.
There is a holy shit moment in this film for me, and it is when the romance hopefully is finished at some point, and then
It never finishes.
God damn it, we get a sort of fade to black, and then we open up, and we're in a sort of grotty alleyway, and there is De Niro as the monster, just cowled over, like, and I was just like, oh, hang on, that's good. I like that. And every single step of the way for a good chunk of this film at this point, I was like, this is the best Frankenstein stuff I've ever seen. I was loving everything within that moment. But I don't know how a film can fire so flatly, like almost flatlining. Like I didn't know how we were going to talk about this film at all. I was like, how are we going to do it? And then that kicks in, and then we get to that family, as I mentioned, and I'm like, what's going to happen here? I'm really invested. Is it impressive to you? Like as I say, I loved it. It's fine if you think, oh man, that was pretty rubbish as well. But like, where would you go with like that moment, my holy shit moment? Where would you rate that?
That's when the movie comes alive, actually. What I remembered that I liked about the film initially was the stuff with the monster. And then watching it again last night, I really loved the stuff with the monster. And now I'm convinced we were robbed of a much better film that focused on the monster and his dealing with the world, because he's always been a pitiful figure as a character. He did not ask to be this thing and does not understand his place or anything and has to find his way. And this is now what I did like about what you were saying, like this sort of sequence of the monster learning is very rarely, if ever, shown, where we get to see how he came to speak and how he got a vocabulary. In fact, it should have been longer, that he should have spent more time with his family. And they added the blind man. Now, the blind man is a character from Bride of Frankenstein. And now he keeps showing up in all these versions of Frankenstein, but let's not kid ourselves. He's not in the novel. But if we're going to include him, why aren't they friends for a good portion of this film before the other family find out that the dad's new friend is a fucking monster and beat him off? No, don't beat him off, but you know what I mean.
I'll take it. Like that is key, and in all honesty, I was getting chills at various moments where like because I hadn't seen it before on film, like where he's peeking through and he's learning about love because of the relationship between the mum and the dad in the family, and like about how they treat their children, and like this is an alien concept to him, and it felt so good. And when he's trying to mouth words together, and I was just like, I was so impressed with what I was watching. And I did a foolish thing halfway through, is I read a few reviews, and it said that quite a common trait within them was that De Niro was miscast. Now you mentioned something about being a couple of people miscast earlier. Is he
Only
one you
one.
think was?
Only one. No, only Kenneth Branagh is miscast in this movie.
Right.
I think De Niro was. Well, everyone was all a buzz when he was cast in the movie. Like, oh my God, what's he going to do with it?
Yeah.
He's not miscast in the movie. He's unfortunately got a bad movie framed around him. And we're not given enough of this guy. We're not given enough of the creature who finds joy in doing good for this family, for helping them. We don't get enough of this monster who, for the first time cinematically, whenever they've gone to include the character of a bride character, he does demand it in the novel. But this is the only time it isn't completely creepy from the get-go. It always comes off as, I want a mate, give me a girl. Whereas this is the monster recognizing that in a family there is satisfaction in peace and acceptance, and that's what he needs. So that's what he's asking for. Not give me a mate, but give me a companion, please. And that sings in this movie. And De Niro pulls all that off, man. When they finally run him off and he's just bawling like a child, like, who can't
Yeah.
feel bad for him, man? Tell me that's a bad performance. What are you, out of your minds?
Yeah, I think it's stellar. Like I couldn't believe there was a moment where he pulled like from the frozen ground, like he was pulling turnips out for the family. And as I say, I was getting chills, and it's so rare that you are in love with a film at that moment. And that was one of them, with the music swelling and stuff. And like, I think it's because he didn't expect anything back. He just wanted to help them because they're helping him, and they don't even realize they're helping him. It's just such a great moment, and it's like it makes me like love discovering things that I've poo-pooed in the past. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt so good watching that. And then I just thought to myself, right, what has this film got to offer now? So we've got I would say the shit bit out the way. Like we've got all the romance stuff but that's not going to come back. I wouldn't do that because
Heaven forfend that they bring that back over and over again. Refocus the entire movie for a portion.
but I was sad John Cleese is gone.
Don't you wish that had been like his Igor character? Like that has been his
Sure.
assistant? Instead, what they've done is, see, here's a book change from the book. The Henry Clerval character, the Tom Hulse character, he's a good performance in it too, as he's trying to
Sure.
provide
Yeah, yeah.
comic relief, straining mightily against this script to provide comic relief. But he's Victor's childhood friend. He never leaves Geneva. And then eventually the monster kills him in the book. So I know they added him to the Ingolstadt section of the movie, but just so Branagh has somebody to talk to, but they had the perfect guy to talk to. Let's continue to talk about John Cleese, but I want to talk about the main problem with the Victor Frankenstein character as he's characterized here after.
All I wanted to say about the John Cleese thing is that he was the ray of light in the whole romance bit where we kept going to him, and it was like, oh, okay, so he's going to be the guy that like takes him under his wing, and we're going to get to learn from him. There's going to be some monologues going on. And he just feels cut off before, and I've just come from watching Life of Brian as well, so instantly, it's fresh in my mind. I know what he's capable of. Got all those great memories from him, and here he's not playing to type at all. And I was just really enjoying it. And like to get it, as I say, like a anti-vaxxer, just doing away with him. Fair enough. Like with today's knowledge, like that's an interesting way to go. But like I could have done with him in the rest of the film for sure.
Yeah, first of all, he looks remarkably like Billy Connolly in this film for some reason with that wig, which I kept thinking it was Billy Connolly on occasion, but Cleese always seemed like the darkest member of the Pythons, if that's possible. Some others might have
Jeez.
shown it more, but there's just something deeply disturbed about him. And so having that come out a bit is really enjoyable. In fact, like when he gets to the end, like there's a moment right before a transition where he lowers his voice. They were abominations. And it's like, oh boy, I can't wait for more of this guy. Oh, no. We're just going to shuffle him out of here. We're going to shuffle him out of here because of the main problem with the movie is Kenneth Branagh is a fucking megalomaniac.
Let's talk about it then. So the other thing in the reviews, okay, was Kenneth Branagh shouting. Like instead of like acting his way through it, he would decide to shout his way through several scenes. Now, that was the worst they could pick. I could think of a few other things to say about him. What's the issue with him here, do you think?
I think in each of his movies, he cultivated and then bristled against this sort of Orson Welles comparison, like the sort of boy genius does it all kind of thing. So when it came to this movie, he has to look back at all the different performances of Victor Frankenstein up until then. And he has to find a lane that hasn't been done, and he has to commit to it. And meanwhile, newly fit Kenneth Branagh, because he's Hollywoodized now. He's done Dead Again by now. And did he do Much Ado About Nothing by now? Probably.
Yeah.
So he decided to make this an ode to his physique and make this a muscular Victor Frankenstein. Instead of the shivering, barely sunlit lab dweller or the gibbering maniac, he was going to make him a football star. I mean, okay, we'll get more of this, but I do want to say that my main problem with the characterization of Victor Frankenstein here is he wants him to be the completely obsessed maniac, the character who needs to conquer death or create life, more to the point. But he also wants to be happy and romantic. So we get the death of his mother, which is the kickoff point in the novel, and points to why he's doing this to begin with. He doesn't want anyone to die. But that shift in character means that he is now deeply wounded and flawed and obsessed with one thing and one thing only. And he becomes dissociated from his family. Like in the book, that he leaves and they don't hear from him anymore. And he's just fucking focused on his business. Yep. But here they want to cultivate the romance. So he's still, I mean, we find out he's not writing letters, but we're made to think he is, and it distracts from everything. And it makes his character like, you can't be fucking bouncy and tortured. It just doesn't work.
It's such a shame. There is too much naked Kenneth. I feel like it's when dads discover Instagram and then they get all buff. It's like that. It's like, it's like, yeah, I might be divorced, but like, look what I can do. It's got that sort of vibe to it, but it's so melodramatic. It's so, every single thing that he does isn't just done as it would be. Everything has to be important and
frantic.
Yeah, if you were focused on this one thing, like that's what you would be focused on. You'd become a nerd within yourself. You know, you would be like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this properly. And I don't ever feel that. I just don't. It's so wild.
Yeah, let's face it. He's decided that the birth sequence is going to be him fucking the monster into life. It's him disrobed and running and grunting and pulling chains that make logs slam into other things and bodies swinging around and then dumped into a vat of amniotic fluid. Now, they make a point to show us in some sort of workhouse medico situation, a woman giving birth and a spittoon of some sort catching all the amniotic fluid. So later, when we see that tank and it's filled to the brim, and you know that, Paul, you, me, and everyone could get into that fucking tank. How long was he collecting that? Did he have people on staff? Where's his money coming from? What's going on here? It's really weird. Anyway, yeah.
It's so weird.
So he makes it like this thing where Frankenstein, golden locked Frankenstein. Let's not forget we're talking a lot about the physique, but he really frames it all with this giant mane of lion hair. You know, he learned from his actual hero, Laurence Olivier. If you're going to make the black and white movie, make sure you're blonde. You want all the focus on you. I don't know. It just ends up being ridiculous. Him, to your point, shouting, instead of "it's alive" and the joy of it, he's screaming it into life. He's making it live because he's so virile.
I think that scene is super gay. I super enjoyed it. I didn't expect anything like that. You know, I was expecting like when there's a homage. A homage is a very good word for it. I was expecting that, and that's not what we got. It's not at all. It was so gay, and I was like, I don't know where this is gonna go. This
Electric eels. Let's speak to the phallicness of it all. There's no lightning here. There's a vat of electric eels that is in a bladder that is pulsating. And then he hooks up a tube and sends in the eels.
Yeah, it's a fantastic birthing scene of the monster, but also absolutely ridiculous. And here's the thing, right? That was still in the bit where I'm still umming and ahhing about this whole film. As I say, and it wasn't enough to get me on board, but it was bizarre. It was just bizarre. It took like that De Niro sequence to sort of get me into this thing, and it really did get me into it. But it didn't last.
Well, can I just say that the end of that scene, when we finally get the monster where the vat of viscous fluid dumps out onto the floor and Frankenstein comes and just tries to help him stand. That scene, I'm making fun of Branagh a lot for his performance here, but his instinct as a filmmaker there to let that play, because it goes on forever. I think back, I only saw that movie in the theater 30 years ago, 33 years ago, something. And that's the image that comes to mind. Those two sort of slickly trying to get up, this amniotic slide, this naked oil wrestling moment, the diddy dip, if you will. It's shocking and disturbing and horrifying and sweet at the same time, because he really is trying to help his creation here. And he hasn't yet rebuked him. I don't know. There's something about that whole image is what makes the whole movie. If the movie works at all, it's working right here.
In an interview that I watched somewhere on YouTube after I watched this, he called this film a gothic romance. He didn't mention horror.
No shit. Jesus.
But there, in that moment, it's so gross. Like if you were going to say like pinpoint a horror moment, it's so like cinema, you know, you'd be like, oh, watching this thing. It fit that at that moment, it really does feel like a horror. And it's not your traditional scares or anything like that. It's just something that's so sick. And
it's revulsion, which you rarely get in a movie without it just being gross out. There's a creeping factor to it that gets under your skin, and it's almost by accident. So maybe that's why it's featured so well, because there's nothing in the rest of the movie that is a horror movie. It's all action from there on out. He can't even have the character sneak up on another character. There are so many moments where you could have easily crafted a scare in this film, and he's just like, no, I'll have him jump off a cliff like a fucking wrestler for some reason here. What are you doing?
What about like when the monster stitches up the maid, I think it is, for killing the girl, and then a mob find her, and then they hang her. So they throw her off this really tall building, and like you hear the neck crack and everything. The way that's filmed is so matter of fact rather than like done for a horror scare. So I sort of get where he's going. Like, no, it's a gothic romance rather than that.
Well, you don't want to live in Geneva, man. The townsfolk there are just ready to riot at every fucking moment. But yeah, you know, what's funny is I appreciated that they accelerated the sequence from the book here, where the maid gets framed for William's murder. But the thing is, in the book, they try her. There's a trial, and she's sentenced, and then she's hung publicly. And Victor does nothing. He just stands because he doesn't want people to know that it was his creation that actually did this. And then that guilt is part of the escalating guilt that he feels, and it just gets getting worse because it just keeps coming and coming and coming for him. But
You
he's not
just
interested in that. He's interested in the romance part of it, and this annoyance of a character.
you mentioned this the sort of like the way they fastly go through the book, and I feels like to me, and I say I can't remember the book very well, but there's certain things that you know when you close your eyes are like, all right, I think there was like snowy mountains and stuff, and there they are. But like it goes so fast through all these things, like it becomes an epic adventure where he then goes off to find the monster, and you know we're in like snow-capped mountains and things, and then the next scene they're talking in a cave, and then the next scene is it all happens so fast. It's crazy for me that I like what's happened to this film.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Okay, so I don't know the work of Steph Lady all that much, but I do know Frank Darabont's work, and he should have motherfucking known better because structurally, this movie is so concerned with. And I think this is owing to the Bram Stoker's Dracula of it all. It's so concerned with telling the aspects of the book that hadn't been told before as a
Yeah.
novelty that it ends up overstuffed. So we end up skimping on things that we need. It's so busy jumping scene to scene to plot point that, in the book, Victor is searching in the mountains for the monster, and then they end up in his cave, and then they have a conversation. But like we don't look when the monster showed up at the manor and said, "I'll meet you on the frozen sea," and then so then we've got a scene of him fucking mountain climbing, and then we've got an attack scene, and then he's got to wake up and slowly come to, and now we're in the cave. He's standing there right then. Victor, I need a mate. I'm going to keep killing people until you give me a mate. Have the conversation right there. Why did we need that sequence? Other than here's what happened in the book, y'all, and nobody's done this, and I'm going to do it.
And I did mention time at the beginning of it, and like I don't want a really long film. I just don't like it until I'm in a film that I'm really enjoying. Then I just want it to go on forever. But it felt like a cheat to just like skip so quickly, like that whole sequence, which should have been like 20 minutes or something, like maybe 5, maybe. It's just I thought it was crazy the way we just did that.
The entire lead up to them in the cave and conversation should have been spent in conversation, because when De Niro is telling him his woes, I'm very locked in. People who said he's miscast, by the way, I want to reiterate, are idiots. He's great here.
He is. I only ever like hear De Niro's voice one time, like, and it's weird when it slipped through, and it is in that monologue. It just slips once, but how? I mean, with that voice, how can you help it?
Right.
But like, it's so convincing. I'm so convinced he is the monster. Although, and I want to get to something about it. The makeup design doesn't make sense.
Nope. It's not very good. It's once again, just as Branagh was, I'm going to do muscular, athletic Victor Frankenstein. We have to not in any way do what they've done before with this monster, which is very limiting. It's been done. The character has been drawn and sculpted and make-upped over 60 years by now, 70, 80 years by now. So yeah, you got to do something different, but maybe just make it scary, because he needs to be scary. As it is, it looks like a man who was involved in an accident.
Yeah.
The townspeople's reactions to him are, yeah, little children would point and cry, certainly. And people would have some, yeah, of course. And people would have some rude things to say, but it wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's a monster. If you saw Boris Karloff coming down the street, yeah, you're going to run. Or Christopher Lee even.
100%. Like, 100%. And I wouldn't. I also, if I saw him, I'm like, you okay, buddy?
I know, we'd be like, come on, dude, let's go.
Yeah, I'm so going out on the town with you. But at the same time, and they do it again with Bonham Carter, spoilers, at the end. They do it with her at the end, where there is no reason for the cuts on the face to be stitched up. Because there's no reason for the cuts to be on the face. Like it's their
No,
face.
they tried to do this thing where they light her head on fire, And then we want those burns, but we don't because we want her to be monstrous. And the only way to be monstrous is stitching. But they lit her head on fire. They've melted her face. She's not looking great.
No, I think that'll do it. Right?
Yeah, but oh no, let's stitch up an eye. We haven't seen that before. Like, how about make her sexier? How about that? Go all the way. Make her seem like something we haven't seen. Get off the fucking bodice.
Very, very annoying. Because, I mean, you said it. There are so many things in this film that could be the best ever Frankenstein film for me. And it just fails at certain moments that are like, wow, why did you do that? Like, I don't understand why you did that. It was unnecessary to do it, but they did. Well, I want to look at this bit of my note because I don't know why I've said it. Oh, I do. It's the mountains. I got extremely angry in my notes when he was in the mountains. It's like, why are we here? 2 minutes ago, he was at home. Like, this is too quick.
Now we'll go to the Alps for some reason. What?
2 minutes on a walk.
Paul, can I tell you the scariest part of this movie?
Please.
The fucking staircase in Frankenstein Manor. That railingless giant staircase in the house. Terrifying. Imagine walking at night and I got to go down and get a sandwich and another one. When are we getting a railing, Papa?
That I've made a note of it because it was the best thing about the first 40 minutes, I thought, was that staircase.
Agreed.
There was a moment where they have a row and Bonham Carter runs up it and I'm like, just like, wow, this could be a long scene. And it fades out. It fades out on her running.
They had to. I think overall the production design in this movie is beautiful. I thought they did a great job. The costumes are fucking fantastic. They're a little too costumey. A little too, sometimes it looks like they were just made, but I will say if there's a problem with Frankenstein's makeup, there's no problem with that great cloak that they put him in. That's fantastic looking and menacing as hell. Costumes overall, really great. My problem with it is that Branagh is going he wants it to be grubby and gross because the times were grubby and gross, but he's so hung up on melodramatic epic that he can't get out of his own way. He shoots this movie like he would eventually shoot his version of Hamlet. It's very softly focused and lit in places. So even when they're like rolling around in the dirt in the alleyways, it doesn't look unsanitary. It looks like they're going to wash that off because they're actors in a movie.
Yeah. Even when he is in the shed next to the pigsty, like he's literally living in a pigsty. It seems all right. It seems like, well, that's the best time that he's ever going to have. In fact, in his sorry life. So, yeah, but I don't know. We've got to, before we finish this, we need to mention the ending. This film is bookended, much like the book is bookended. Yes. So, with regards to it, we've got a different set of characters. We're on an expedition to find, I think it was the North Pole. I think that's where we're going. And they come across Frankenstein and the monster. Now, I know how cynical it was to put it all in there, like, because he wanted to do things that hadn't been seen before, but I really liked it. I liked the whole idea of that, and I've got nothing against it, no problem with it at all. I in fact rather enjoyed the way that was done, so I'm okay with it. Again, with the reviews, a few people were saying it's unnecessary, and I wouldn't mention it unless if it was one, but there was a few people saying it was a bit like just added on to pad out the running time, and I don't see that.
I don't feel one way or another about it. Like, I did appreciate seeing it portrayed. I just think it fumbles the ball in the scare department because being trapped on this ship in the ice and this madman climbs aboard and now there's a monster out there that wants him. What a potent setup for the rest of this movie while he's telling the tale
from that. Right?
Yes, as the monster is getting more and more crew members just because it wants this guy. Like, it could have been fucking great, but what we get is him it is a bookend. It's here's my story. And then at the end, don't do what I did. Okay.
We do get an iconic sort of it's almost like a painting of the monster's death, and like I really did enjoy that, and I wrote, okay, that looks iconic. I like that.
We're talking about the bonfire.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about like what they call it, like a pyre, a funeral
Yeah.
pyre. Yeah, so like I like that, and like the whole way, like that's his like father and burning, and then he's burning within it as well, and I just like, oh man, that looks good. Okay. And then it sort of, as it finished, it just left me so conflicted about what I'd seen because those moments that I enjoyed, I didn't just enjoy, I enjoyed it like it's my favorite ever film enjoyment. I loved certain moments, but I've never had that experience with a film that just pissed me off so many times. It's the weirdest
It's a
experience.
it's a complicated film in that regard because it is so clumsy for so long, but then when it shines, it really shines. The moments that I've mentioned that I really enjoyed, I were magnified 1,000 times on the rewatch. So I understand what you're saying. It's a bad movie though, Paul. Don't kid yourself.
It's number two next to the original, the OG.
No,
Well,
you are so wrong. I hear you popping off about stuff all the time. We're not even going to bring up Young Frankenstein right now, but now you've just gone too far by even putting this in your top five.
I love it.
Flesh for
I
Frankenstein should be on your list before this movie.
How dare you? Um, okay, I will try Young Frankenstein again though because I think it's my most common email that I get is people just telling me I'm wrong. So
Because you are.
there we go.
There's just two ways about it. I mean,
But Father Malone, where are you going to take us for a double bill? Where's it going?
you stole Frankenhooker from me, so I'm not going to go there. Although that's a natural. That movie has a problem just because it has that Goomba character, that fucking guy who showed up in a bunch of trauma movies for 2 seconds. That
Right.
which admittedly is a character you've never seen in a horror movie before. Hey, what is this shit? What are you doing over there? Hey, what is that? Oh, are you a monster or what? We haven't really seen that guy. I guess we did back in the Dead End Kids days of the anyway. So not Frankenhooker, but I based on the characterization of the monster, how he's presented dramatically here, which I think is the best part of the movie. I would recommend not a movie, but a television series that would be Penny Dreadful, where it's basically a Monster Mash team up thing where that we're mixing and matching all of the Victorian horror characters. There is a Mina Harker character and there's a Wolfman and a Dracula and a Frankenstein. There's a Victor Frankenstein who is the more sort of drug addicted, reedy portrayal of what he would probably actually be like. And the monster, on the other hand, is fucking fantastic and just as soulful and as vicious and unpredictable as he would actually be. I think if you want the true Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, take a step outside that book entirely and check out what they were doing on Penny Dreadful for 2 seasons. It's fucking phenomenal.
So I found that in in this country it's called Poundland for both seasons. I got it for £1. So yeah, love that. And it was because I watched episode 3, I think it was, and I found it like, oh, hello, like what's this? And then I've never watched it. It's just sitting there gathering dust.
Oh my, no, continue. In fact, what they'll eventually get to, spoilers everybody, but this is only sort of sauce for the goose, I think. We get to meet the monster before we go flashbacks to his life prior to dying and becoming the monster, and interactions with other characters on the show that we did not know they had any interaction at all. It's really fascinating. It's really good. And I cannot remember the actor's name right now, but I know he's the son of a famous other actor, and it's killing me. Nevertheless, he's really good.
A final thing with it, how long is this two seasons? Is it like a 22, like an X-Files thing, or is it?
No, thank God they were following the British model by then. This was a Showtime series, so I think there are 10, maybe 12 episodes per season.
Okay.
But you know what? You know what? Every hour you devote to the show is going to be worth your time.
Okay, I'm accepting.
Come on,
that.
young Frankenstein, give it a chance.
Well, for my double bill, I went for May. Just
excellent flick. I love that movie. Well, she's creepy as hell. Angela Mattis, I believe her name was.
You know it.
Yeah, I don't know why she wasn't more popular. If she had made the scene right now, she'd be a huge fucking star. She'd be a goth superstar. She was right on the cusp there before goth culture really exploded.
Yeah, she scares me actually. She's more just the way about her in May is more scary than the whole of this film that we've been talking about, I would say.
Just her
Yeah.
in any given scene. I agree.
Hey, Father Malone, thank you very much for chatting with me about Mrs. Mary Shelley and her Frankenstein.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, I've only just discovered this thing. I found it on YouTube, so I can't really say if I like it or not yet. Whilst I was watching the film, it was way too much. It was way overbearing. But I've listened to it once already, and I think it's okay. Separated from the film so far, but it needs a few more spins. Now, this is only one of 4 horror movie scores that Patrick Doyle has actually bothered scoring. Not a very huge horror fan, this one. But the other ones that he's done is a 2006 take on Jekyll and Hyde, a scary kids film called Igor, and a Stephen King also ran adaptation called Needful Things. So there's his repertoire. Whilst I already know Needful Things, I don't really rate that score. This one's already a lot better, and I've only listened to it once. But as I say, I can't be a judge. It's not fair. Perhaps you can, though. As I say, I found it on YouTube. So where can you find this film to watch, though? Well, a few months ago, you were able to watch this for free on Pluto, but it's now left that streaming service. So I don't know. I don't know how you're going to watch yours for free right now. I guess we've just got to suck it up and spend some cash. As for podcasts, well, in 2018, August, Rewind podcast, they focused almost 2 hours on this beauty, and it's a really good podcast. I would recommend that as well as maybe if you're in the mood, just listen to this one again, because myself and Father Malone, we smashed it, if I say so myself. That is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production podcast network. We hope to see you online.